All right, as soon as we get everybody in here, if we can get folks to turn on their cameras, we'll just do brief introductions. And I will go ahead and start. I am Kathy Mayfield Smith. I am the co-founder and board president with the South Carolina Respite Coalition. And I will pass it to my new colleague, Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela Rodriguez, and I am also with the South Carolina Respite Coalition.
Sharon, how about you?
Sure, I'm Sharon Fidarelli, and I am the Consulting Respite Program Manager with New Mexico Caregivers Coalition.
Great. Dana.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Dana McCann-Stevasier. I'm from the Rhode Island Office of Healthy Aging, and I'm the Community Living Director.
Excellent. Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber Goodrich. I'm from the New York State Office for the Aging, and I represent our ADRC on our Lifespan Respite Grant.
Oh, great. And Lita.
Hello, I'm Lita Nelson from Arizona. I manage the Lifespan Respite Program for the state.
All right, welcome everybody. I am going to been asked to facilitate this discussion, and so for those of you who have participated before, you know this is very informal, and it really is just to begin some discussion about these things and get people thinking about the topic. So we don't have to get through all of the questions. We want kind of free-flowing discussion. So let's just start. I'll ask, let's see, the first question. What additional preparation? Okay, you will be negotiating situations throughout your life. Think back on some recent work situations in which you had to negotiate. To learn from them, ask yourself, what additional preparation would have helped me? Anybody got any thoughts?
I had to negotiate a hotel once, and if I would have actually gone on their website and understood what they did, it would have been a lot better to prepare. Probing, since I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't really ask those really good questions and all of that sort of thing. And it didn't end up working out well at all because, but the next time I had to negotiate a venue, it worked out a lot better.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think we learn from every negotiation that we do.
Yes.
And for sure, preparation is probably one of the most important things. Although we don't always know that we're going to end up in a negotiation, so those are hard to prepare for. Anybody else got any experiences?
Yeah, I wanted to share just about collaboration, negotiation. I tend to be more of a collaborator, as she was talking about earlier, but I was thinking about just prepping with one of our partners that we contract with, and what lessons learned is definitely to look at data from the past, if we've done some work with them before, and if we choose to continue, what does the data say about their performance? And I remember at one time learning, as I came on board here at the Office of Healthy Aging, I didn't have the data I needed. And so it worked out well that we had a great relationship with them already.
Yeah.
And so we were able to negotiate, a contract scope of work. Certainly that wasn't totally built on the data, but certainly it spoke to it, and they were honest enough that we were able to work through that. I think in that situation, I should have probed a little bit more. That would have certainly prompted some information, historical information, and really helped me and others to guide others through that. But it turned out really well because, as I said, they were a trusted partner.
That's good. Anybody else? How about probing? She talked about probing and the types of questions that you would ask. Does anybody have experience with that in your negotiations? And how do you go about it in a way that's maybe not confrontational?
Hi, this is Lita.
Yes.
So right now we are in the process of updating our scopes of work for the state, and I'm finding myself working with not just the coordinators that I work with directly for the program, but also other programs and how those scopes also are applicable to their programs. So understanding where they're coming from, understanding their needs for their programs, and then really looking at how the scopes are being utilized in the state to make sure that it is usable and not restrictive or not putting in any barriers. So understanding that, looking at the data and numbers as much as possible to where, are the agencies using the correct coding, the units, what is the, outcomes of those units being utilized. And then internally with contracts and making sure that everything aligns with, the OAA and things like that. So I find myself alongside my colleagues collaborating and then really looking for information where I can better understand how changes I want to make will impact pretty much other services. And, we don't want to set up barriers for people in need. So just being really conscientious of that.
No, that's excellent. I know for me, I tend to ask a lot of questions during a negotiation. A lot of times it's just to clarify. Clearly, if I don't understand something, to make sure that I do understand what they were saying and what the meaning of that was. And then often I'll just ask questions that I think I already know the answer to, but just to make sure that that all of us in the room have the same answer or understand the same thing, because it's good for me to have somebody else articulate back what their understanding of something is, and then we have an opportunity to clarify if it's not the way that I understood it, or if there is a difference, or even just to understand how they might define something differently than we do, so that we can get to a more common definition that will serve both our purposes. So I actually find questions to be a good way to really get clarification and get a really good understanding. Any other thoughts? So some folks talked about what has worked well and what didn't work well. Any other thoughts on things that you've used that have worked well or not worked well in a negotiation?
Yes, there's, you can make sure that they understand your point of view also in negotiating. I worked with a disability agency or organization, and a lot of times I had to make sure that vendors or whoever knew exactly what it meant to be, disabled or things that they had to go through.
Right.
So I guess it's kind of using emotional tactics to get what you want.
Yeah, sometimes those can be very effective.
Yeah.
I mean, to get at the emotional side so people can really walk in somebody else's shoes and really understand their perspective. Speaking of that, what do people have an example of what were some things that either you or somebody in the negotiation on the other side did that actually helped to move things forward and to achieve the outcome that you were looking for?
Well, I have said, well, if we can't come to a conclusion or the same point here, I'm going to have to back off and we're going to go in another direction. And sometimes that helps too, because they don't, the vendor doesn't necessarily want you to move off in another direction. They want you to stay there.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's right, because the whole reason people come to the negotiation is that both parties want something. And so I don't think most people, unless you just really can't get to an agreement, want to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any experience or ideas that have actually helped move things forward? Amber.
I think just taking the time to build rapport as much as possible with the other party. I work with on our ADRC in New York State. So I work with a certain number of counties across our state to implement the program. And I've just found that, as is kind of obvious, but the ones I've had the time to really develop a relationship with and build that rapport with, we tend to make more progress, and they're kind of able to achieve their goals a little bit better.
No, I think that's an excellent point, which I will actually talk about a little bit more in that last session. But I think relationship building is a really big part of everything. And even Cheryl said, negotiation, you're negotiating a relationship, not a transaction. And so that is a lot of what I've seen. I know I've been in situations when you don't know the person at all. And it can be very difficult if there is real disagreement, because you almost have to step back and say, okay, let's learn about each other. Let's, find out what each other does. Let's find out where each other's coming from, what we're each trying to achieve, and just really spend some time getting to know each other. And sometimes you just that's what you have to do, is just set up a series of meetings where you may be working on something, but the real goal is just to get a better understanding of each other. And I would agree with you. I think when there are good relationships and the trust is there, things go a lot smoother, and you can work through more significant issues in a way that works for both, even if you don't get everything that you want. The last one is a good one. What have you learned about assumptions and biases, and being careful about what you wish for? I know one of the assumptions that I have made going in, especially with an organization that I've had a long-term relationship with, a very good relationship with. I'll walk into a meeting, even a regular meeting, and there will be a new player there, a new staff person, a new budget director, a new, somebody who doesn't have that same history. And they can really cause a wrinkle. I assume everybody's kind of coming, and even though you're new, that you've received some background, you've received some understanding, and the fact that we're working with your agency, you've got a basic understanding, only to find out that they are coming from a completely different orientation because they came from an agency where things were very different. Things didn't operate the way that they operate in their new job. And the rules were really kind of black and white. And so it can really, for me, I no longer assume anything about people. I just, I really work to try to get to know them and really kind of get a sense of where they're coming from, because that can just throw everything off and set you back. Anybody, other experiences?
Yeah, back to the what you were just talking about with the assumptions. I think sometimes in my role, as I was saying, I'm in the state and I work with the counties, and sometimes I feel that I perceive that they think because I'm from the state that I'm not trying to work in a collaborative manner, although I am. It's more that I'm trying to monitor and regulate what they're doing. But on their end, I think they also, it's not always the case. So just that assumption that maybe you're not you want to work together, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, I think that's right. I think that assumption that everybody wants to work together, but the realization of whatever role you play in that group and whatever agency you work for, there are certain constraints and there are guidelines, and your role is different as somebody monitoring what they're doing versus, somebody who's actually just concerned about doing the job. And so it's helping folks to understand. And I think also giving people grace, because whenever I'm working with a state agency, especially in South Carolina, we have cabinet agencies. And so the politics that goes into what they can and can't do, can vary from an administration to administration. And so I think you have to go in with an understanding of what things can't change, what limits there might be, so that you can then say, okay, I understand that and I appreciate that and know that you can't do that. But what can we do that can help, get to that point? So that clearly understanding somebody else's role and not assuming it means one thing, and not really understanding the rules under which they have to work, and that they're doing everything they can, but there are some things that in that position they just can't do. So I think one of those examples is as a nonprofit, while we don't do a lot of lobbying, we do have freedom to go to the legislature and educate and do a lot of things like that, and much more freedom than our state office on aging does. And so there are often times where we can help them based on something they're really interested in seeing happen. We can be the voice, and we can play that, realizing that they can't, that they can't do the same thing. So I think that understanding is critical, and getting beyond assumptions and biases, but truly understanding, where people are coming from. Okay, I think we've actually made it through the questions. Does anybody have anything else? And I didn't hear her say how long or when this was going to end. Was it going to go to 4 or?
She said, well, just about maybe 3-4 minutes ago, she said it was 5 more minutes.
Oh, okay. All right. So, well, I think this is good. I think this has been a good discussion, and we've been able to get through most of these things. Anybody else had anything that they just want to share, that they think would be interesting or helpful?
Well, in Arizona, we work with 22 different tribal sovereignties.
Yes.
So that's definitely a consideration when we're talking about even just communication. One of the things that we really had to understand was their process.
Right.
We think that the president doesn't always have to sign off on budgets or okay contract amendments and things of that nature.
Right.
But there are, you know, some tribal sovereigns that require that. So it's learning about who you're working with and then giving them, like you said, grace, them giving you grace as well, because you can't push and expect to have a great partnership with them.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's where understanding the cultural differences and everything else, you know, comes into play. So it looks like we are going to close in about 25 seconds.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Kathy.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye.
Bye-bye.